LA's famous mountain lion P-22 has passed away. I talked to my colleague Laura J. Nelson earlier this year in an episode about everything P-22, so it's fitting that Laura gives a big cat the send-off that he deserves.
P-22 surprised the world in 2012 when he showed up on a photograph that had been taken in Griffith Park by a motion-sensing camera. The first glimpse that scientists caught of him were his fluffy hindquarters. To get to the park, he had made an improbable trek of about 20 miles, all the way from his birthplace in the Santa Monica Mountains. He somehow made it through the Hollywood Hills and safely across the 405 and 101 freeways. P-22 quickly became a celebrity. He was introduced to the world in an LA Times story, and then he appeared in an iconic National Geographic photo, prowling past the Hollywood sign at night. One of the most unusual parts of P-22's story is that the city rallied around him instead of demanding that he be removed. Scientists had thought that P-22 would eventually leave the park to find a mate and to find more space to roam. Griffith Park is right in the middle of LA, and it's only about 6% the size of the usual territory for a local cougar. But instead, P-22 stayed in Los Feliz for more than a decade. Over the years, catching a glimpse of P-22 on a nighttime prowl became one of the most coveted celebrity sightings in Los Angeles, and people across the city fell in love with him.
I think P-22 really had me at hello. You know, our boy has had some misadventures, but LA still loves him, and I think that's what's wonderful.
There was something about him that was so human, or maybe it was something in me that connected with him.
I loved his daring spirit and his piercing golden eyes. He walked so majestically amongst the humans.
Perhaps one central reason for loving P-22 is that he seemed to take us away from this obsession with ourselves. And he reminded me and us who we are, shorn of our illusions, and that we must care for one another and all living beings on our beautiful planet.
I'm so saddened by P-22's demise. I'm just, it's weird. It feels like my relative has died, you know?
P-22 was considered a celebrity in Los Angeles for sure. But at the same time, P-22 is far more beloved than most actual celebrities in Los Angeles.
So many of us Angelenos saw ourselves in P-22. He was an aging bachelor who had to adjust to a too small space in a big city. He had shaken off society's expectations for him, and he had crossed borders and freeways in search of a home. But he was isolated and lonely, waiting for a mate who never arrived. His presence in Griffith Park was also a reminder that Los Angeles is far wilder than it appears. We have some of the highest levels of biological diversity of any big city in North America. P-22 also became the poster cat for wildlife preservation. He was the face of a campaign called Save LA Cougars, which raised money to build a bridge for cougars and other animals across the 101 freeway.
I believe that P-22, as a mountain lion, expressed that there is a dire need for a balance between the natural world of Los Angeles as well as the urban.
P-22 became a world-famous spokescat for coexisting with urban wildlife. We must honor the spectacular life of P-22 and work towards a new paradigm for wildlife.
P-22 was euthanized Saturday because of several chronic health problems and injuries from being hit by a car. I cried when I learned that he had died. All the scientists and wildlife officials who cared for him and cared about him were crying too. It felt like the whole city was in mourning. P-22 is an important part of scientific research into wildlife, but he was also a fixture in the city. Los Angeles had formed a bond with him and loved him fiercely. It hurt to know that he was in pain at the end, and that humans had done this to him. I think P-22 captured our hearts because every part of his story was unlikely. He beat the odds. He somehow made it to Griffith Park. He stayed there for a decade, and LA embraced him as one of our own. There are other mountain lions in LA, but there will never be another P-22.
He was just a remarkable mountain lion being.
I greatly am saddened by his passing, but he has taught us a lot during his time on this planet.
I hope that he is prowling with all the space he needs wherever he is.
Long live P-22.
Thanks to all of our listeners and readers who called in to share their memories of P-22. And thanks to Laura for her obit. P-22, you were loved, man.